Hey, good evening. It's Tuesday, January 28th, and welcome back to Everyday Talk 24/7. We're talking about the trap of being conformed to the pattern, to the thinking of this world. Paul warns us against doing that. He says, don't be conformed to the way this world thinks or the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so we can understand how God wants us to operate in this world. Last night, we looked at the importance of seeing that Jesus is the one who is reigning and in control. We saw that in Acts chapter 17. Tonight, I want to see this from the perspective of darkness. Listen to what John's Gospel says. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and He was God, with God in the beginning. Through Him all things were made. Without Him nothing was made that has been made. In Him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it or overcome it. That's John 1 through 5. You see, if we do not learn about life from this perspective, we're not educated. We are, in fact, learning in darkness. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. Our education, no matter how well-meaning it is, and I have great respect for people who are in the education field and the great things that they have done, but as significant and monumental as many of those things are, if it's not seen through the light of the wonder of Christ, then it's darkness. In that sense, secular education is learning in darkness. We cannot be truly educated unless we have the light of Christ shining through His Word. For example, my wife Ruth has done some brilliant work in education, and she says this, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but a person cannot be truly considered to be educated if they don't deploy the fruit of the Spirit in everything that they do. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. If those things are not a part of our thinking, then we're not operating in a way that is consistent with the way God made things to operate. We're, in fact, trying to learn in darkness. And if I can't deploy the fruit of the Spirit, I'm missing a key component of what it means to be educated, to know how to function. See, if we're going to define education as successfully operating in the world that God has made, according to the way God has made it to function, then we have to have His Word guide us. John Dewey, the noted American philosopher and educator, maybe the most influential educator, said this: we learn by doing. And that sounds great, but it's not true. You and I learn for doing. Learning by doing means I'm figuring things out as I go. I'm changing the rules as I go. And every time I learn something new, I change things. And that is where our country, our world, our education world is doing. We get a new bit of scientific data, and we think that changes everything, when in fact it changes nothing. It may change some ideas about the way we do things, the way we manipulate things, and make things happen. But in terms of why we do it, and how we do it, and should we do it, new data changes nothing. See, learning for doing presumes that I'm accountable to God. I'm accountable to Jesus. Through Him, Jesus, all things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. Is it not reasonable to consult the one who made everything and who has given us a written word how to know what we do? See, this doesn't restrict us from doing or knowing anything, but what it does is it tells us how to function with the knowledge that we gain. Learning by doing tells us, hey, every time I learn something new, it's a whole new set of rules. And isn't that exactly where our culture is? We learn something new, we can process something different from a medical standpoint or a scientific standpoint. Oh, this changes everything. It may change the way that we do things and blast off into space or do surgery, but it doesn't change the way that God wants us to operate in this world. So you see, in that sense, secular education, which denies the teaching that Jesus gives us, the one who made everything, and living for him is all that really matters in this thing. That's not a restrictive thing, that's a liberating, freeing thing. See, if we can't function that way, then we're not educated, because we're not playing with a full deck of cards. Without the Bible, we don't have everything that we need. We can assume that there is no God, and that everything is a matter of making things up. That's pretty much where we are. Look at where that's gotten us. Or we can take the word of Christ, who made all these things, and live according to the way that he's directed us, so that we live in sync with what God wants us to do. That's what being educated is. Yes, we have to read. Yes, we have to know how to do math, how we have to understand history, how we have to be able to work with science and all those great things. But if we don't have this truth, we live in darkness, and we learn in darkness, and we stumble in darkness. And as the Proverbs say, we stumble and we don't know why, because we're in darkness. Jesus, he is the light. He is the one that shines in the darkness. May we open our hearts to him, open our minds to him. Then, and only then, can we be educated in a way that really matters. Again, probably do another one on these tomorrow, but thank you for being here. Thank you for the honor of being with you each day, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. You have a great night.